It's time for Reason.
No, we changed it. We're the ones with the power of the purse. We'll decide what inflation's going to look like when it comes to educational funding or what that dollar amount is actually going to be. Thanks for the input. I'm glad you like the formula. This is what we're going to stick with. People are tired of it, and if they continue to rail on it, they're going to begin losing support of it from the general public because it's gone on for 20 years. So now they're changing the argument.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, kicking off the day we've been looking forward to all week long, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation, right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side. 102.5 of the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. This is the Voice of Reason. I am Andy Hoosier. Welcome aboard. Great to have you along today on a Friday, and let's make it a free-for-all Friday. Come on. You know the drill. Every Friday, it's up to you. You get to decide the topics. You get to decide the discussion. You get to have the fun, and I sit back and enjoy on a free-for-all Friday. Come on.
Baby.
316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. What's happening? Man, it's been a heck of a week with the news, with fun shenanigans, with politics, with Donald Trump, with Vladimir Putin, with so many other discussions that we've had at the national and the statewide level. It's been a lot of fun. Let's continue it today and wrap up the week on a solid note. Welcome in 316-721-8255. I need some help, though, and some of you are already doing it, which I really appreciate, though. As you know, we do the Facebook live feed every single morning. We try and be somewhat in tune with social media. We try and at least get involved somewhat in social media. And yesterday, right towards the end of the program, we ended up getting blocked on Facebook by CBS Entertainment, who tried to block our video for copyright material. Now, I don't know what we air that CBS on our program at all because we have Salem Radio News. We don't use CBS for anything really. So I'm really curious as to what copyright that we have, but we tried to challenge it. And we submitted the challenge because of the fact that, well, I don't know, we're an original content show. I'm pretty sure that I'm not regurgitating the same talking points as some may at least try to accuse me of on the progressive side of the aisle, that, you know, I'm just doing the copy talking points from the Koch brothers and from all the rich conservative outlets who are paying me, which I'm waiting for that check because I would like to have that. But I don't have any type of large money coming in to try and spout off my conservative, terrible ideology. No, I don't have that. Don't have it. Still waiting for that kind of endorsement or check to come in. One of these days, maybe, they may call me up and say, hey, why don't you work for us? And then we'll tell you what to say. And then I'll have to seriously consider something like that. But until then, I don't have any type of a check or endorsement or a talking point to come down the wire from that sense. So it is all original content. As you can see on TV, I don't have a script. I don't have a teleprompter in front of me because I'm really terrible at reading teleprompters, or else you'd see me squinting like this and I'd be reading really slow, and I just can't do that. I can't. I'm actually blind as a bat. I'm supposed to be wearing contacts or glasses or something. I never do. I stopped wearing them in college years ago, and I have my reading glasses I use on occasion, and that's about it. So nonetheless, we got blocked on Facebook. We are doing the Facebook live feed right now, and I appreciate it if you go on there, like it, share it, just leave a comment, say good morning, say hi, just do the little like or the heart or something on there, share it onto your own personal page, and let's get the activity going on there so that way they can't block it. But social media is a great one of those tools where we can actually try and get the message out, and for whatever reason, the sabotage has continued on social media with individuals wanting to block that one. Not quite sure why. We're fighting it, but, you know, we do what we can. 316-721-8255. It is open lines to you, whatever you want to talk about. Today is the day. Usually through the rest of the week, I set the tone, set the topic, and then you comment on those topics. Today, there's a lot of topics that maybe we didn't get to that you want to talk about, and you can set the tone and talk about whatever the heck that you want to, and we'll have some fun with it today. I do want to start off with the show today, though, however, because this is kind of a somewhat hotly discussed topic we do talk about on occasion, and it's beginning to happen. And I'm a little surprised by it. Now, it's not even included in a farm bill, but according to Forbes magazine and Forbes.com, the non-psychoactive cannabis cousin of marijuana would finally become legal to grow in the United States under a bill overwhelmingly supported by the Senate. The wide-ranging agriculture and food policy legislation, known as the Farm Bill. I guess it is part of the Farm Bill, but a branch of the Farm Bill that was actually voted on before the whole collective Farm Bill is actually being included. Passed on a vote of 86-11 on Thursday that contains provisions to legalize cultivation, processing, and sale of industrial hemp. Now, I know that we've talked about this before, and it was being somewhat discussed into the Farm Bill. Didn't know if it was going to come out or not, but industrial hemp moving forward in a sub-context of the Farm Bill. And it was all, by the way, promoted and championed by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who also made hemp plants eligible for crop insurance along with that as well. Quote, consumers across America buy hundreds of millions in retail products every year that contain hemp, according to Mitch McConnell, but due to outdated federal regulation that do not sufficiently distinguish this industrial crop from its cousin, American farmers have been mostly unable to meet their demands themselves. It's left consumers with little choice but to buy imported hemp products from foreign-produced hemp. So, it doesn't sound like even in that comment from Mitch McConnell that we're going to go anywhere when it comes to marijuana, but the industrial hemp, which I am a fan of, I do favor, it sounds like it will be legalized, at least in this part of the Farm Bill, in order to allow industrial hemp to be done at the statewide level for farmers to be able to grow. And, oh, by the way, it's going to be covered by crop insurance. Kind of an interesting move, isn't it? Now, I'm glad that it's happening. I like to see this happen. I'm a little surprised. Honestly, I truly am. I'm honestly a little surprised that they actually wanted to go down this road because I didn't think it would gain that much support or traction, or I was afraid that what they were going to do is that they were going to try and partner it up and they'd buddy it up to, or at least some activists would try and partner it up to put the marijuana side of it into the industrial hemp side of it, and then they try and push it all together, and then it would be killed because of the fact that they tried to lump everything all together instead of doing it in a step-by-step process. So I am a little surprised. I'm happily surprised, but I'm surprised. McConnell also took to the Senate floor on Tuesday and Wednesday to tout the bill's hemp legalization provisions in two separate speeches. In April, GOP leader introduced the standalone legislation to legalize hemp, the Hemp Farming Act, the provisions of which were included in the larger farm bill when it was unveiled earlier this month. So right now we have two separate types of farm bills. And for all you farmers out there and agricultural industry individuals that have been concerned about this, we have two separate types of farm bills right now. I don't think the House of Representatives had industrial hemp into their farm bill on the House side. They did, however, have the reform of the SNAP program, which is really nice, where you have to actually have work requirements. They pushed really hard to make that happen, and they were concerned it wasn't going to pass in the Senate. They have the work requirements into the SNAP program when it comes to that type of reform from the House side. The Senate side now has industrial hemp. Now they're beginning to pass parts of the Farm Bill on the Senate side. Once they pass the bill as a whole, then it'll go to the Joint Committee, where they'll both take a look at what's happening on the House bill, what's happening with the Senate bill, how they can morph the two, and then they'll both vote on it again. And I'm very curious to see what that final bill is going to look like. I'm almost wondering if we're able to compromise a little bit and actually use this to our advantage, at least from the House side. And for us to say, you know what, we have a prime opportunity to get best of both worlds. Let's include the industrial hemp. Let's include the SNAP reform. Let's work for it together, and then we can actually have a solid bill where it does something productive. If you remember, Pat Roberts and Jerry Moran, they were very skeptical of this. They said they wanted to make a farm bill actually happen because of how necessary it actually is, and I agree with that. But at the same time, they didn't want to rock the boat too terribly much because at the end of the day, they were looking out for the farmer aspect of it, and whatever compromise they could get, fine, but they didn't want to push that envelope too hard. They didn't want to bend it until it breaks sort of thing. So let's just be content with what we can get and then be able to take care of the farmers. And as you know, I'm a little frustrated with that situation because, yeah, we need to take care of the farmers, but at the same time, why not try and rock the boat just a little bit because we have the majorities to try and actually make some of that happen? And why not push for what you can and say that this is kind of a necessity and at least try and make the fight happen rather than just go along to get along? Yes, the farmers are the top priority. But now we have two prime opportunities, and this is a good negotiating tool. Oh, you want to include industrial hemp coming from the House side? Perfect. I love that idea. You can include industrial hemp into the final bill as long as we get to include the SNAP reform into our side of it. And if you don't like that, then we'll pull the SNAP reform. You can pull the industrial hemp, and we won't support a bill unless we actually include both of them. Let's make it a negotiating tool. Let's make it something productive here, and let's get the best of both worlds. And then we can all rally together, obviously with an 86-11 vote in the Senate, that the Senate overwhelmingly supports industrial hemp. I'm sure the House is going to do the same thing, and they're going to get an overwhelming majority for that as well, which means that we can use that as a bargaining chip. Because this is the way politics is played, unfortunately. When we're talking about crop insurance, which they want to cut the funding for that, which is ridiculous, because, again, 80% of the Farm Bill goes towards the social programs like SNAP. And then we try and cut the crop insurance because just like we do with everything else is that when we have the largest chunk of the budget, we don't touch that. Then we talk about cutting budgets and we talk about cutting the stuff that's already struggling. Hint, hint, wink, wink, by the way, Kansas Democrats and Kansas moderate Republicans. 60% of our state budget is, education. When we talk about cutting things to be able to weed it down, we can't cut the educational part. Got to cut everything else, even though they may already be struggling to some degree. So kind of interesting news coming out yesterday from the federal level. We haven't seen, actually, honestly, really some big news of any major votes happening in Congress as of lately. A few little things here and there, nothing big. They're working on the appropriations bills. They're working on the budget for 2019, which is a really good sign. But at least we're moving forward with somewhat of a farm bill and some of it with some decent reforms and some good positive things. Let's keep that ball rolling. Let's use that as a negotiating tool, and let's be able to get the best of both worlds from both chambers in there with the SNAP reform and the industrial hemp. 316-721-8255. Let's take a break. 18 minutes past the hour. I want to get to a lot of things today, both at the federal level. We have some stuff at the statewide level that I haven't even touched on this week that I want to do so. Also, we may, if we get a chance, touch on the city of Wichita's budget proposal where they're shutting down 2 libraries and a golf course, and a lot of people not very happy about that. So we'll get your thoughts on that as well. But it is open lines to you today on a free-for-all Friday. Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, I am excited to have, we haven't had him on in a really long time, and we haven't had him on yet at all talking about the actual campaign, but Governor Jeff Colyer will be joining us in about an hour from now and chatting about the campaign, talking about what he's been doing, and we're looking forward to talking with him in just a little bit. So that's the guest lineup today. Other than that, it's open lines to you on a free-for-all Friday here on The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
25 minutes past the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. What's up? On a Friday morning. Great to have you along. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. So, let me ask you something. Some of these parents that are trying to make their children gender neutral to where they're not going to tell their children whether they are a boy or a girl, but they're going to let them decide on their own. Is this a joke? Apparently it's not. There are some that are actually trying to do this. According to NBCnews.com, boy or girl, parents raising what do you call them? Hey, baby. Hey there, little one, when you're talking to the baby, but you don't know whether it's a boy or a girl. What do you call them? Well, according to NBCnews.com, boy or girl, parents are raising they-bees. Like they, They, bees. They-bees, not babies, he or she or whatever, but they're they-bees to let the kids decide. They always come up with these funky names and funky terms in order to allow you to, I don't know. I don't get the terms. I don't get the names. I don't get the phraseologies. I don't get it. They-bees. One way of shielding children from gender stereotypes, keep their biological sex secret. This one coming out of Massachusetts. 3-year-old twins, Zyler and Caden. Zyler. Zyler. Sounds like an alien name in some kind of movie. Zyler. I am Zyler. And Caden, Kadyn, got to find it unique. Sharp scurried around the boys and girls' clothing racks for a narrow consignment store filled with toys. Zyler, wearing rainbow leggings, scrutinized a pair of hot pink and purple sneakers. Caden, a T-Rex t-shirt fixed on a musical cube, then flashed colorful lights at a glance. The difference between them is that Zyler's brown and Caden's blonde when it comes to their hair colors. Other than that, they have no idea what genders they are. They're going to choose as a Zyler, a boy or a girl. How about Caden? The question, their parents, Nate and Julia Sharp, say only the twins can decide. The Cambridge, Massachusetts couple represent a small group of parents raising they-bees, children being brought up with without gender designation from birth. Facebook community from their parents currently claimed about 220 members across the United States. A they-bee is, I think, different things to different people. According to Nate Sharp, who told it. By the way, the news, the media outlets, they're the ones that encourage this type of behavior. Oh, you're different. Let's do a story on you. And then everybody else sees it and like, wow, that's a really good idea. For us, it means raising our kids with gender-neutral pronouns. So they, them, their, rather than assigned to he, she, him, or her from birth based on their anatomy. That makes your gender is your anatomy. Just saying. Parents in the U.S. are increasingly raising children outside traditional gender norms, allowing boys and girls to play with their same toys and wear the same clothes, though experts say this is happening most in progressive, well-to-do enclaves. I am scared, intrigued, but I am scared on what these children will look like when they get older. What they will be like when they get older. How they will hold themselves in public and then in the community. How they will raise their children when they get older. How they will look for a spouse, a significant other when they get older. They need structure. Do you ever realize when you go into, say, the corrections facility, you go into a prison, you do something bad, you go into a corrections facility, and what do they do there? They not only punish you for your crime, but they try and rehabilitate you. They try and help you, and they give you structure. When I did the tour through the Hutchinson Correctional Facility, they talked about the biggest focus they needed for individuals was to give them structure. That this is the time of day when you eat breakfast. This is the time of day when you go and work. This is the time of day when you have time to relax. This is the time of day for you to have dinner. And if you work really hard and you do really good things, then you get rewarded with currency to some degree, and you can buy a snack, you can buy something for yourself, and giving you structure. Because most individuals that are in there have never had structure in their lives. They're the ones where their parents didn't care. They're the ones where they kind of went off and did their own thing and they never were told no. They're the ones that just kind of did whatever they wanted to when they wanted to without any type of repercussion, and they got in trouble for that. They needed structure. Children are the same way. Children need structure. They need a parent to not only tell them when to brush their teeth and what to eat, and the fact that they can eat an apple at night for a snack and not a whole bowl full of marshmallows shows structure in their life. And one of the most basic pieces of structure that they should have is to know whether they're a boy or a girl in order to function with structure in their life. I know it's a wild concept, and it would be common sense to you and I, but apparently it's a foreign concept to some today.
Giving the libs one dose of sanity at a time.
I'm not being aggressive, I'm being dominant.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason on a Friday. It's great to have you along today, waking you up the best way we know how to do so, which is, by the way, getting you all fired up in politics. Better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink. Right here on the Voice of Reason. Welcome in. 316-721-TALK, 8255, 316-721-TALK. You want to join in. Facebook Live feed is up and rolling as well. And on a free-for-all Friday, let's go right to the phones, line number one. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, it's Deacon.
Deacon, what's going on, sir?
Man, you know I'm living the dream out here every day.
Every day. I did not envy you guys, as I mentioned yesterday, with that heat of, 100 degrees, 106 degrees heat index or something like that. I'm sure that was not fun being in all day long.
Oh, yeah, and, you know, a lot of people don't know it, but the asphalt can get up to 40 degrees hotter than the ambient temperature.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a little warmer.
You know, you get to feel the heat just rising off of the concrete. That's nice.
Oh, yeah. But I hope Helen's listening because I can't find the verse, but I'm going to give you what I'm going to paraphrase.
Okay.
You were talking about parents raising their kids without gender.
Yes.
In the Bible, it says that they will despise knowledge. They will call evil good and good evil. And that's what's going on in the world today, brother. You know, people are killing God. They're saying, you know, that whatever you want to do is okay. And they're destroying their children. You know,
it's just such a lack of common sense. I mean, when you're born, it's very easy for you to tell what gender you are based on looking down and what's going on. And if you don't feel that way, first off, as a young child at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, you don't know what you're feeling, which means that you don't have a say in that kind of discussion because to give a child that much power and say, you are a child now, you get to decide what gender you are, what lifestyle you're going to live, to give you that shows, number one, the lack of parenting, because parents actually don't know how to tell their children yes and no and what they can and cannot do any longer. But to give them that much power over themselves like that, they have no guidance, they have zero direction, and they have zero common sense in society today. It is very simple what gender you are. If you do not feel that way, then that's an entirely different discussion to be had, and we can have that discussion based on what you feel as you grow older and based on what you are, based on what you want to be or what you feel like you should be. But it's a very commonsensical, very easy thing to tell what your gender is, and you're absolutely right. The fact that we deny even that, I don't know another species of animal in the entire world to where they say, you know what, I don't know what gender I am. There are three purposes, or there are multiple purposes of what a species should be, and humans are included in this, and that is to find food, that is to defend yourself from predators who want to make you food, and to reproduce. And that's really what they are. And reproduction is a very simple concept of individuals that are of two opposite sexes to reproduce to make another one.
Well, I'm going to go to something you talked about the other day. And I'm going to join two things together where that guy said that we should be giving guns to preschoolers.
Yes.
You know, I think I'm putting along the same lines. They do not have the life knowledge or the self-control to make those kind of decisions. No, you at 4 years old, you don't get to tell me if you're a boy or a girl.
Right.
And at 4 years old, you don't get to play with a gun.
Right. We forget the concept that the Second Amendment is about responsible gun ownership, and I'm pretty sure a 3-year-old is not responsible in order to be able to carry a firearm.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't get my first one until I was 12, and I had proved that, you know, I could handle a BB gun, and, you know, it was stages.
Right. Exactly. But we give the children too much power. Nowadays, we have these parents who want to be more friends with their children than actual parents. And then you see them. These are the ones that you see on social media now with the nice little video clips of them that are the jerks to other people that go around and bully other individuals. They are the ones who feel like that they can boss other people around. They're the ones that are shoving teachers. They're the ones that won't be told no in any way, shape, or form. And that they're really the ones that back in the day when you and I would see these individuals, the ones that you would want to take outside and kind of bring down a notch or two, right?
Oh, yeah, it's like, hey, man, come on over here. Let's talk about something for a minute. Let's go around over here behind the bleachers, and we'll work it out.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. And you put them in their place. Nowadays, you're not allowed to do that even. So we have parents that want to be more friends than actual parents. And now they have so much power that they actually get to decide what gender that they're going to be at that young of an age. It is a very dangerous position to be in. It is absolutely absurd to even think that that's okay. And it's completely lacking common sense and basic humanity of the fact that we can't even decide what gender we are any longer. I never thought that society would ever come to a situation like this.
When they go into the tombs over, the pyramids over in Egypt, they don't try to have a seance and ask the dead guy whether he was a boy or a girl. They just look. It's pretty basic and it's kind of easy.
I don't know. King Tut may have been a third gender identifier. You never know.
I self-identify as a TAC helicopter, but they don't let me put that on my license.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I think we should, self-identify as whatever. I self-identify as a millionaire. Now I should be able to claim the fact that I'm not a millionaire as some type of racism and therefore, or some type of bigotry. So therefore, I should be entitled to some money, right?
That's right. You're a bigot if you don't let me have millions of dollars.
Exactly. See, you know what?
Have a great one, brother.
I love it, Deacon. Have a great weekend, my friend. Good to talk to you. 316-721-8. I mean, it's a stupid discussion. I know we've had it once in a while, and I don't want to focus too much time on that, but you see stories like this, and you just shake your head. And you just think, what's the world coming to? I mean, if you identify or you're confused or whatever, then let's have that conversation as well. But the fact that there is a gender and there are two genders and there are a very, very small minority population that is that actually has a biological issue to where they're not sure because things didn't happen the way that they're normally supposed to, which is like 0.005% of the population sort of thing. The fact that that's now going to be the mainstream, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. Other than that, it's a very simple process on what Andy, you're such a close-minded bigot. No, I just live in reality. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones. Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Eddie.
Good morning, Eddie. How are you, sir?
Well, enough of this. A man's a man's, a woman or a woman. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
You would think that's a simple process, but apparently we need to break it down and explain it to some because they just don't get it.
I know, but the question I have for you is kind of going back to the Sarka Boaz guy.
Okay.
And his interview with some of the rifle people of the National Association. Now, I do know that you're operations manager of several radio stations there with Strickline.
Yes.
But how can they legally tape somebody, then go out and put it in a movie without violating that person's rights? Because you have to be careful about copyright material you just discussed earlier in the show. But how can they go and say that I'm so and tape somebody, then go put it on Showtime or whatever it is, and it be legally okay without getting into trouble?
Well, because they signed off and they approved it. I mean, the individuals that were on there, and that's why it's so damaging, is that, look, I mean, if you remember the clips, I mean, it sounded like a Saturday Night Live skit to where they were poking fun and making fun at gun activists and making us look like really, really bad, horrible individuals that would want to arm toddlers. But the damaging part was that these individuals that were on there, these gun rights activists with Philip Van Cleve and with some of these others from the Gun Owners of America and some of these other groups, they signed off. They went to the studios, they did the filming, and they accepted and verbally and I'm sure even legally gave their approval to be part of this film, not realizing it was a gag, as Borat likes to do, or this guy, this Sacha Cohen. They didn't realize it was a gag, but they thought it was a documentary at this guy who was from Russia or wherever he said he was from, Israel or whatever, that was there doing a documentary on wanting to try and advocate for this legislation to give toddlers firearms, and they openly and willingly went on there, and that's the damaging part of this.
Now, you own the content of everything that broadcasts on your radio station, right? I mean, your station owns it, correct?
Yes. I mean, being it's like original content. So what I'm doing right now is original content. I'm not verbally stealing anything or plagiarizing from anybody else. We're not taking content from them. I mean, we play the music, and that's about the only thing that is quote-unquote protected, but we pay 3 different agencies, by the way, nationally every single year in order for us to be allowed to play that kind of music. So, but yes, what we do is original content.
Okay. I did a little bit of research, and Boaz was in Wichita April 10th, 8 years ago. And he did go to a church, and he also went out to the Wichita airport, and they cut up out there. I think he had men kissing men or something like that. It was crazy, but he did come to Wichita.
He is a very strange individual.
But getting back to, what I'm going to get myself in trouble, but hell, that's okay. I'm 73 years old. What man would be proud to raise his son not knowing what sex he was or confusing him? When I raised my boys, you're boys, and one of these days you're going to be men. Girls, one of these days you're going to be young ladies, and Dad's going to teach you and Mom's going to teach you how to be a decent young lady. Mm-hmm. And that's it, period. I mean, good God. Can you imagine what kind of laughter they're going to get when they go to school?
I know it. I don't get it. And you're right. I mean, we get excited about it. Now, I mean, that doesn't mean that you don't have, the tomboy, the girl that's all into the boy stuff, or the boy that's in whatever. I mean, you have those, but that doesn't mean that you still change your gender. I mean, with my daughter, she's a daughter, and she's definitely the drama queen, and she's definitely going to be the diva, but at the same time, she is very strong-willed. She loves NASCAR. She loves football. She's going to be a tough girl, but she's still a girl. And you should see her room. It's entirely made out in pink with butterflies and Barbies everywhere. And oh my gosh, she's all about Frozen and Anna and Elsa, which is the greatest thing on the face of the earth. But at the same time, she loves Legos, and she loves Hot Wheels, and she loves watching NASCAR and playing and watching football and that sort of thing. So she's diverse in what she's interested in, but she's a girl. She knows she's a girl, and she loves wearing dresses and being a princess and that sort of thing. So she knows exactly what she is, because that's what she is, and there's nothing different about that. And you're right. I mean, as you're the parent and you realize you're going to have a kid, the guy is so excited about either having a daughter that he gets to have as a little princess, or the new boy that he gets to roughhouse with, and he's really excited about that. To grow up and say, yeah, we have a child, but I'm not quite sure what it's going to be, and just kind of let him do whatever. I mean, that kind of takes away the whole childhood experience too, doesn't it?
Andy, hell, I'm 73. I got 20 years left, 15 years left. Now I'm leaving it to you younger guys. Hey, you younger guys, this old man, I got one foot in the grave, and you guys better straighten up this damn country fast, okay? Because I don't want to be on my deathbed saying, Andy, please, Andy, a man's a man, a woman's a woman. Don't let this dying old man down.
Oh, you know what? That would be a very sad way. It does say you got a good 30 years, 40 years left on you there. Don't worry about that one. But that would be a sad way to go, is be sitting there and saying, you know what? I'm leaving the world, and people don't even know what gender they are anymore. That's a really sad deal. Eddie, I love it. Appreciate the phone call, my friend. That really brings a negative light to that, doesn't it? Boy, oh boy. Got to take a break. Wrap it up. Hour number 1. This is The Voice of Reason.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
7 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, making it happen today, doing the thing, advancing conservatism the way we roll. You know we like it. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. As you know, I'm kind of hungry this morning. I really kind of am. Trying to decide what gender I am is a really difficult task and really kind of burns the calories, and you got to, refill your stomach once in a while. This portion of The Voice of Reason, as you know, is a free-for-all Friday, and here we go with an EAS test. Well, there we are. As long as we had the EAS test, thank you very much. We have seen the outer realms of the Twilight Zone. It was the whole gender identification thing. That's what it was. Good golly. This portion of The Voice of Reason brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street in downtown Inman, just north of Hutch. You can give them a call, 620-585-6925. Katie is back on the line with us this morning. Katie, good morning to you. How are you today?
Good morning, Andy. Happy Fried Chicken Friday. Well, I'm confused. That's how I am.
Well, I am kind of confused as well. I need to figure out what gender I am, and doing so is a very hungry making test because I burn a lot of calories thinking really hard about what gender I may identify as.
Okay, well, let me tell you something, okay? You're a man. I'm a woman, and that's it, okay? So let's say something more inflammatory. Okay, so, and I don't know what an EAS is or what you just said, but that was like, I don't know what's happening. I'm confused.
No, that's okay. The EAS tests are emergency responses, so they like to do the national test every once in a while, and they just break into my programming whenever they choose to do so, so I just had to let that ride.
Oh, good. Fun time.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So, anyways, it is a Fried Chicken Friday today. Everybody I know is already hungry. Breakfast is rolling it right along, but you have the awesome two buffets today from 11 to 1 for lunchtime, the big one from 5 to 8 o'clock tonight. And other than the fried chicken, other than the awesome roast beast that you do every single week, what do you have on the slate for us today?
So today we are having chicken and broccoli casserole. So that's chicken, broccoli, saucy stuff, some cheese on top. It's yummy. Then we've got meatloaf at lunchtime, and if the meatloaf runs out, then we will have a pepperoni pizza casserole.
Ooh.
And the pepperoni pizza casserole is just like it's a rotini noodle and then pizza sauce, homemade pizza sauce that we then top with pepperoni and mozzarella cheese. So that's what we'll be having today, besides our roast beef and our chicken and our everything good.
That sounds delightful. I've never heard of a pepperoni pizza casserole. So how do you make that one?
Well, it's just, I don't know, because I haven't made it yet, honestly. This is one that's not got a recipe attached to it, but in my head, it's just the noodles, and then I'll make some pizza sauce that I will taste until it tastes good.
Very nice.
And then, because that's how we do it here. And then when it tastes good, then I'll put it on the noodles and put pepperoni and put cheese and bake it up in the oven. And it'll be delicious.
That
does sound just like pepperoni pizza, only with noodles instead of a crust.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That does sound pretty nice. I have never heard of such a thing, and that sounds quite delightful, and I'm really excited to try something like that.
Awesome. I'm excited, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we have to remind everybody, and we're running short on time here. We got a couple minutes, but we do have your free slice of pie today. So when you walk in there, you got to grab your slice of pie for the, by the way, for the evening run from the 5 to 8 o'clock tonight. Grab your slice of pie before you even sit down. And I know you guys have the plethora, which, by the way, last week, how many people ran towards the bumbleberry pie when you guys had that?
Oh, well, of course, everyone. So, I never get to eat any because I only eat pie when there is some left after Friday night, and there never is. So, it was gone. Yeah.
It was gone.
That's okay.
Because everybody enjoys that one. But what kind of pies do you have for us this week?
Today we have banana cream, rhubarb custard, peach, cherry, cookies and cream, sour cream raisin, chocolate, and coconut.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and then we'll be making some more this afternoon. So tonight when you come, you might come across something totally different.
Now, which one of those is your favorite to have with a big scoop of ice cream on top?
Oh, the rhubarb custard. Oh, yeah.
Rhubarb custard.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
It's kind of like custard, because custard's an egg pie, and then you put rhubarb in it. So.
See, that's the way to do
and
it.
extra lots of sugar.
That's the way to do it right there. I am totally feeling some fried chicken with some pepperoni pizza casserole smothered on top of it with a piece of pie right on the side. That's kind of what I'm talking about today when it comes to a Fried Chicken Friday.
Yeah, and that that's and there's so many different flavor combinations that you could potentially have with all of the different stuff on our buffet and all of the different pies that we have in the pie case that you could eat 4 times here and on the same day and have something completely different every time. So
that's what I'm talking about. It's the Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street in downtown Inman. As you work up the appetite, whether because you're working in the field or because you're really confused about your gender and you have to think about it really hard, either way, the Inman Harvest Cafe will feed you and be able to re-fulfill and get you back up to where you need to be there. 112 South Main Street, downtown Inman. Check them out, inmanharvestcafe.com. Katie, thank you. Enjoy. You guys have fun with breakfast time. We'll check in with you here in a couple hours.
All right, sounds good. We'll talk to you then.
Always a good time right there. Let's wrap up hour number one with the Inman Harvest Cafe. We appreciate them partnering up with us here on The Voice of Reason. Wrap it up. Hour number two, right around the corner. Governor Jeff Colyer going to be joining us. We'll talk about some of the campaign, some of what's going on with the state of Kansas, and more, along with your phone calls. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay right here.
It's time for Reason.
No, we changed it. We're the ones with the power of the purse. We'll decide what inflation's going to look like when it comes to educational funding, or what that dollar amount is actually going to be. Thanks for the input. I'm glad you like the formula. This is what we're going to stick with. People are tired of it, and if they continue to rail on it, they're going to begin losing support of it from the general public because it's gone on for 20 years. So now they're changing the argument.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number two of the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. Welcome aboard. Good morning to you. It's great to have you along on a Friday. What the heck? Let's make it a free-for-all Friday. Come on. We do it every single week, meaning that you drive the discussion, you drive the topics. I just sit here as your political therapist and work through it together. Let's have a little fun. Come on. Let's do it. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. You can shoot me a message all over social media at Hoosier Reason. Facebook live feed is up and rolling at facebook.com/1480 KQAM. I am excited, though. Let's get right to our guest for this hour, as we have a lot to get to. It's been a little bit since we've had him on the show. I know he's been an extremely busy individual with, I don't know, like running the state and campaigning and talking to individuals and trying to make things happen. We are excited to have on the phone with us Governor Jeff Colyer right now. Governor, how are you, my friend?
You know, it is great to be back with you, Andy. I've missed you.
I've missed you as well, my friend. It's been a long time, and it's great to be with you again. I have to ask you, we haven't really talked about the campaign in a while, but how's the campaign going so far?
You know, it's been really going gangbusters and really turned up quite a bit the last couple of weeks here. Part of it is, really, I'm just out doing my job, and so you've really got to be out talking with folks, listening, working, and doing the basics of the job. But then also you get to have some fun parts, you know, the parades and some of the events that are out there. Mm-hmm. But the campaign is going along very well. In fact, we were just in Wichita on Monday and doing a new grand opening for the Heartland Cardiology, a really fast-growing group.
Fantastic.
19 locations now in just 4 years. So it was a fantastic day, but yeah, we're busy. We're out there. Tracy and I are trying to hit all 105 counties here.
I love it. Well, and you're right. I mean, we did see, actually, I was down spectating with the parade down at the Wheat Festival down in Wellington a couple of weeks ago, and got to see Lieutenant Governor Tracy Mann down there, which was really nice to see. So, as you mentioned, I mean, you guys have been all over the place meeting and talking to a lot of the constituents. And as you've been traveling around to all the counties in the state, has there been a couple of issues or a couple of the topics or things in the state that have been brought up consistently by a lot of the constituents where they're concerned or they're happy or they want to see change or they want to see something done? What's been kind of the driving talking points that you've been hearing from people around the state of Kansas?
What I hear people talking about is they want to make sure we have a growing economy, and they want to make sure we have world-class schools, individual liberties are protected, and they want to see Kansas to be the place where their kids can see their future. That's what they tell me in the end. And believe me, there are a lot of ideas out there, and working with folks and talking with them, they want to see us moving in the right direction and getting things done. They just keep saying, make sure you get it done. Get it done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's been fun to watch Kansas grow, and we've been watching it succeed and watching it do well. We did, run into a couple of rocky roads, and I know last year, a couple of years ago, we passed the largest tax increase in state history, which wasn't fun. They overrode Governor Brownback's veto on that one in the legislature, and we saw it the same year, by the way, where we were one of the only 2 or 3 states in the entire nation with negative GDP growth. And I think that's largely to relate because of that when it came to some of that. How do we move forward from here to see the economy grow, to bring back agriculture, to bring back business, and to actually see the GDP actually grow the way it needs to in Kansas?
We're starting to see that now. And I think the way to focus on this is, number one, agriculture is our biggest industry. And so I've been out visiting with people, and we're bringing in new businesses, so things that add value. For example, we have a lot of dairy, adding value, processing that milk, building cheese, things like that is very important. In Wichita, we're starting to see a lot of changes too. I worked really hard with Spirit and NIAR, which is where we do our testing for the. And Spirit is now going to invest $1 billion in expanding jobs. And they're going to bring in 1,000 new jobs, and that ripples throughout the aviation industry. It means more housing, more gas stations, the whole 9 yards. And focusing on getting those things going, where we are right now, we've really turned the corner. In the last 12 months, we have 20,700 new jobs in the state of Kansas, and for us at this point. We have, if you go to the state website, there are about 53,000 open jobs, and we have about 49,000 people on unemployment. We have actually more jobs than people at this point. And so what we're focusing on is how to get people a certificate, like a technical education certificate, like a welder certificate, which can be a great job. It can be a $60,000, $75,000 job.
Sure.
And so we're focusing on expanding skills and opportunities for people. Plus, we need to make sure we keep taxes low, and that hidden tax regulations, we're going after that as well.
It's really good to hear, and I know that's been a lot of the talk on the campaign trail has been how do we start intertwining some of the workforce to where we can meet the demands of some of the workforce that we actually need, as you mentioned. I mean, the technical side of it. We have Wichita Technical Institute here in this area, which has done a fantastic job, and they're working closer with Wichita State University for some of those degrees because that is a side that is hurting right now because nobody really thinks about even going into those types of industries, and you can make some really good money. So I'm glad that we're talking about that. Agriculture's slowly coming back with the economy ticking back up and some of the trade issues that are happening nationally, which I want to get to in a second as well. And then we have, as you mentioned, the aviation that's finally starting to come back, and it's good to see us being able to invest in that as well. So overall, you're right. We see a lot of potential. On the other side of it, how do we start getting the taxes back to where they need to? Again, as we mentioned, we had the largest tax increase in state history from a couple of years ago, retroactively. Even as well, a lot of people filed their taxes this year. They had a lot of money going out, and they owed the state of Kansas a lot of money. What kind of fight do you potentially see us going into when it comes to 2019, the 2-year budget cycle that we're going to look at this next legislative session in January, where we can start easing some of maybe the tax burdens to even increase that opportunity a little bit more?
That's right. And a couple of ways of doing this. One is we're driving new efficiencies in state government. So, for example, on my second day in, we actually appointed a chief operating officer for the state of Kansas. First time that we've had one, even though we're a $16 billion organization. And what we want to do is drive efficiencies that get things done, using technology better, things like that. Mm-hmm. And as you drive those efficiencies and make and create more competition, you can do this. One of the ways that we did that is we've been able to drive more competition in our Medicaid space, and we saved $2 billion over the last 5 or 6 years in that. We can do much better in a lot of places, and that's my focus, is getting that done. Then, as we're doing that, though, I think we do need to get some money back into people's pockets. and really take advantage of the federal tax laws that have come forward for us. They've rethought their tax laws, and believe me, people talk to me about property taxes.
Sure.
And believe me, I would veto any property tax increase, but we want to make sure that we're starting to drive those down, and we can do that with more efficiencies and working with communities and legislators. Let's get this done.
Sure, absolutely. No, that's a great idea. Let's talk a little bit about the trade. As you know, and I know that you've commented and been fighting and working on this, but sorghum, milo in the state of Kansas, we produce close to 50% of the country's sorghum for the nation. When it comes to the exports, China put the hefty trade tax and tariffs on them. We talk about some of the trade with now Canada or with China or with some of these other nations, and a lot of the agriculture being affected by that. How much do you think that's affected Kansas farmers right now?
We've seen commodity prices drop across the board in several different sectors. And when these have come out, for example, the one on sorghum, as soon as that came out, I was visiting with the White House, visiting with producers here in Kansas. We called in the Chinese Consul General, talked to him, explained, this is how serious this is to us. And working with the administration, the Chinese actually backed down on that 179% tariff on Kansas sorghum.
Good.
But we've got to keep going more. A couple of other things that you do is you add value to the product so that even though commodity prices may be low, we still have an added value to it. And then the third thing is we've been really working to expand our markets. So, for example, I brought in the consul generals from Japan, Indonesia, a lot of different countries, more than 1.2 billion people worth. So it's bigger than China, about how Kansas we can outproduce anybody. It's a higher quality and a better value for folks. And really helping establish those trade relationships. Those are long-term things, but that's something a governor can do and be very active with. So we're out there working on this one every day, whether it's Canada and Mexico or China or agriculture or aviation.
Sure. And I always feel bad for the farmers. I mean, we always explain it as one of those to where you try and have a small business in a private business as a farm, but every aspect of your business is out of your hands when it comes to commodity prices, when it comes to weather, when it comes to different, the price of gas in order for you to be able to do that, or the price of the seed. I mean, in a private business like that, every aspect of whether you're successful or not is kind of out of your control. And I don't know how farmers do it on a daily basis because they go through so much, and yet they persevere, and we continue to get the products that they come out with, which we appreciate every year.
We're Kansans and we're optimists. And, we grew from farmers. Mm-hmm. And, even though, I can't make it rain, although we do have a lot of people, I've asked people to be praying for it, mm-hmm. And that would really help. But, agriculture is changing, and Kansas farmers, they compete. And, they're doing a lot of really innovative things that are very high tech. So, for example, in western Kansas, southwest Kansas, they're working on ways with moisture probes so that you can actually control the irrigation from your iPhone. But by doing that and knowing exactly what's going on, they can actually end up saving 15-20% of their water usage and still have the same production. And using those sorts of technologies are really going to be important for us in the future. And, this isn't getting out a plow. This is high tech.
Sure. Absolutely. Let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about one of the bigger issues that I know is going to come up again in the legislative session next year, and something that as governor you may have to deal with again, and it's the educational funding in the Kansas Supreme Court. They came out and they approved and they said the formula that you guys ended up approving was adequate, but now they need interest on top of that, and they want close to $100 million, $80 million, $90 million a year, depending on the interest and the inflation rate each year for that. Where do we go from now? Do we draw the line and say that we're not going to fund it anymore? Do we try and find more money for that? What's the next step when it comes to educational finance in the state?
Here's a couple of things. One is what we've done so far is stair-stepping in some money to that. and focusing on getting it into the classrooms. We started to require accountability for the first time. And that was my insistence, that we had to have accountability measures. So you actually can look at the individual classroom and look at that classroom and say, how are they doing? How's that school doing? So that the parents and teachers, the PTA, everybody knows what's going on. And I think having that accountability will really help drive some changes. I think we need to reform our schools as well. When we're dealing with the financial side, we're talking right now with the legislature about this. I don't think that court ruling was correct, that you had to do that, but it is the court. Mm-hmm. Where we are, and so allowing people to vote on that, I'm fine with that. We'll see if the legislature wants to go there. But what they did tell us is that they wanted an inflation factor. So right now, we're really looking at, okay, what is that true inflation factor, and what aspect of the budget are you applying it to? So I think you can do that in a manageable way without breaking the budget. Our budget is much more stable for us, but I want us to focus on this outcomes in the end.
Sure. Well, that's very true. And it's going to be an ongoing battle. Do you think it's time for the constitutional amendment as well on top of that?
You know, this thing has not been going on for 20 years, Andy. It's 50 years. I'm the 10th governor under litigation. 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. I'd like to see it finished. And if getting the people to, letting them decide on that, I'm fine. I think that would be great.
Sure, absolutely. Governor Jeff Colyer, we're running short on time. It's always an honor to be able to talk to you. Keep up the good work when it comes to the campaign. You guys are working really hard. And by the way, we got to give you credit as well. Thank you for, a week or two ago when it came to the KU flag and the desecration of the flag there and the removal of that. Once we got a hold of it on the show, I know a lot of our listeners made a phone call to the chancellor as well. You made a phone call to them, and by that afternoon, they ended up removing that. It was sad that it was there in the first place, but thank you for your action on that as well.
Yeah, it was sad. It should never have happened there, but they did bring it down that afternoon. Mm-hmm. We've been working with folks in Wichita. I really appreciate some of the endorsements. Mayor Jeff Longwell, the county commission leader David Dennis, Wichita Chamber of Commerce, Kansas for Life, NRA, Kansas Farm Bureau. Campaign's going along well, and we appreciate all of the support.
Sure. Well, and as you mentioned, you've been receiving a lot of those endorsements, so congrats on that as well. For the next few days, what's the next step? Where are you guys going to be at for the campaign? How can people find you guys?
Sure. If you go to jeffcolyer.com, that is our campaign website, and you'll see us there. We're going to be in all 105 counties over the next couple of weeks, so you'll be seeing a lot of things happening down around the Wichita area. There, I can't give you the exact dates and stops. We're going to be there not once, but many times over the next couple of weeks. And even after the campaign, we're still coming to Wichita and working in the area because Wichita is a great place. It's a real center for the state of Kansas, and we're going to keep working our tail off to grow the economy.
Well, we love it. Well, Governor, whenever you're in the area, we'd love to have you swing by the studio as well. We always love chatting with you.
Yeah. Hey, Andy. It's good to visit with you. Thanks,
absolutely.
My friend.
You as well, Governor Jeff Colyer, right there. We'll take a break, open up lines to you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Bottom of the hour news coming up in just a minute here. Thanks again to Governor Jeff Colyer joining the program. It has been a while since we've chatted with him, and we appreciate that very much. So we're going to try and get on, if we can, each of the gubernatorial candidates on one more time before the primary, which, by the way, is in about a week and a half. Less than 2 weeks away is this race. It's up to you to decide. And we're going to open up here very soon for everybody to call in and talk about who they want to support if they want to talk about it, on who we should have as the next Republican candidate for the gubernatorial race. Remember, that historically, about every 8 years, we shift from Republican Democrat in the governor's seat. Let's not make that mistake again this year. It's time to keep a Republican in there and keep advancing conservatism the way we need to. Bottom of the hour news coming up. It's Open Lines to you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
Come on. No, that I know, that I think of it is so very strange. Come on. And all I've got to know is we got
It's time for your daily dose of reason.
Are you insane?
I don't know. Just ignore him.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome into The Voice of Reason. It's great to have you along today on a Friday morning, kicking it off the best way we know how to do so. Having more fun than what we should be on a daily basis. Welcome in 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, it is open lines to you for the rest of the program. I think we have, we got Brian Davis Liquor Outlet, coming in at 8:30 in an hour from now. But until then, it's all you, baby, on a fried chicken Friday, on a free-for-all Friday. Kind of makes me hungry thinking about it. Thanks again to Governor Jeff Colyer joining the program. The importance of this election, I've been saying this for a while now, but the importance of this election coming up is really more important, or just as important, as the midterm elections, or as the general election back in 2016, the presidential election. We have a lot of major, especially here in Kansas. Do you realize the significance of this election for 2018? Every 8 years, we shift parties in the governor's race. Republican, Democrat. We always just change it up, which means this would be a year for Democrats to win this. Could you imagine what this state would look like with a Democrat running the governor's, sitting in the governor's seat during the time that Donald Trump is president? Could you imagine what this state could look like? And I want to open up lines to you right now and ask you the biggest, most important issue to you that the state legislature and the governor should focus on in 2019. Going forward from now, what is the biggest issue to you? Is it educational funding? Is it the Supreme Court? Is it taxes? Is it regulation? Is it economic growth? Is it, what is the biggest number one issue to you? Is it the Second Amendment maybe? Because these are the issues that are going to drive you to the voting booth. Those are going to be the issues that make you want to get up and actually go out to the voting precincts on primary day, which is very difficult when we get very low turnout when it comes to primaries. As you know, last election, what was it? We had like 16 or 17% turnout for the primary, and they thought that was a really good number, and they were really excited the fact that we had 17% turnout for the primary. 17%. We can't have something like that. We need to be having 50, 60, 70% turnout for the primary, and then we need to have even a higher number when it comes to the general election. Again, the primary is the most important election that we could possibly have, but what's going to drive you there? Is it going to be maybe the governor's race and you really feel passionate about one governor's candidate or another? Is it going to be maybe Secretary of State? Is it going to be the legislative seats? What's going to be that driving force for you to go out and vote on August 7th? I'd like to know that. 316-721-8255. We have a lot of issues. As we mentioned, 2016, 2017, we saw negative GDP growth in the state of Kansas, which was, we were only number 2 or 3 in the entire country of number of states that actually had negative GDP growth. Everybody else grew. Everybody else saw the opportunity President Trump was going to give them, and they utilized that. They capitalized on that opportunity, and they grew. That's why we saw massive GDP growth as a nation overall, because the state's individual. Or remember, we talked about it. I mentioned this at the rally. We've said this many times on the show before, is that the economic growth, the GDP, it succeeds when we succeed as an individual. And as the individual grows, then the neighbor grows and succeeds, and they do well. And then the other neighbor has an opportunity to grow. And then everybody begins to do well, and then the community does well, which means the state does well, which means the nation does well. It's the trickle-up economics, if you want to put it that way. Trickle down and trickling up both work the same way, sort of, if you want to call it that. Because when everybody as an individual, not as a groupthink mentality, not as a collective mentality, but as an individual, as a family unit, When you succeed, when you go to work and you have enough money to not only put food on the table, but to pay your bills and then be able to expand and be able to invest and be able to pay off your debts and be able to do what you need to do and go to retail stores and buy things, which stimulates the economy and local business does well. Everybody grows. Welcome to an economy. Welcome to the private sector. Welcome to capitalism. I know it's a crazy foreign concept with capitalism in today's times, but that's the way it goes. And that's going to be a driving force. And when Kansas decreases, when it shrinks 0.1% of our GDP, that's a problem. That's just a little bit of a problem. So is that your driving force that's going to say, you know what, we need economic growth, and high taxes and high regulation and high government spending is not going to be that driving force? Is it going to be education, where we spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on education, and then the Supreme Court says that we need more money in education, and then we try and figure out ways to get more money for education, and then they tell us that it's still not enough, so we got to go through the whole cycle again? Governor Collier's right. 50 years in this madness that we've gone through this litigation. It's time to end now. The line has been drawn in the sand. We dare them to cross that line, and when they do, all hell breaks loose. Because we will come down on the Supreme Court. We will come down with a constitutional amendment. We will come down and threaten them to try and throw us into a constitutional crisis and try and shut down the schools. Try it. Try it. I triple dog dare you. Because it ain't going to happen. They're going to say, well, it's good enough for this year, but next year you better watch out. And then it never does. Because we always cave in, but it never does. And it's time for us to stand up on that. Who's going to do that? Which candidate do you think is going to do that? Is it going to be a Republican or is it going to be a Democrat? Just imagine under a Trump administration where the national GDP is growing at 3.5%, 4%, where people are going back to work. We have more jobs than we do people to actually fill those jobs. And everything's going well at the national level because every state's doing well. And then we have Kansas where we end up getting a Democrat in. We raise taxes. We raise more spending. We raise regulations. We kill off all the opportunity and all the growth that we've been slowly beginning to see again. And then what's going to leave us again? Where's that going to leave us? What's that going to do to the state of Kansas? Kind of concerning, isn't it? A little troubling. We need to show up. We need to elect the right candidate in the primaries, and we need to show up en masse in the general election to make sure that doesn't happen. Your thoughts on this? 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones at line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning, brother. It's Joe.
Joe, what's going on, man?
Just being blessed, man. Blessed every day.
Every day.
Hey, every day. How do you pick just one thing? That's the problem. This is so multifaceted that
Sure.
You can't just say there's one thing that I'm worried about. Can I say it's taxes? Oh, yeah, I'm worried about taxes. Am I worried about the job growth? Yeah, I'm worried about job growth. And
Sure.
then the school thing. So there's no way you can just say, I want this to be a single deal, because it isn't. You have to look at each candidate. And that was going to be one of my questions was, is there a website that you can go to that lists what every candidate is for and against? I mean, I'd like to know the pros and cons of each candidate in some place where I can view them all in one shot. You know what I mean?
Sure. A comparison website, no. Now, at the beginning, I don't know if you remember this or not, but back at the beginning of this year, when this whole process started, I came out with a blank list on to where it was kind of a spreadsheet for each one of the candidates and their stances on everything or quotes or whatever, and I put it out there on social media. I think we need to share that again, and
Exactly.
I've been somewhat keeping tabs of it as well. So later what I can do, and probably in the next week, I may share that online on my thoughts with the pros and cons for each candidate, their quotes, and this will be kind of an unbiased perspective of it on exactly what their quotes are, what they believe on when it comes to some of these issues, and that way someone does have a compare and contrast on what their stance is on taxes or what it is on education or what it is on economic growth or that sort of thing, and we can have a little bit of that comparison. Hopefully, as some have been able to kind of follow the debates as well and see what they're saying in the debates, what they've been saying on the campaign trail, and that sort of thing as well. But to try and have that comparison on the pros and cons, I think is extremely important, especially for the primary race on what the Republicans will be standing on and what they'll be defending or not defending when they go into the general election.
Exactly, because if we have some kind of comparison, we can say, okay, then when we get to talk to this guy, or if we see this guy in a debate, we get to back him up and say, okay, you said this you've been saying you support this,
Sure.
but now you're saying that you don't support it in a debate. So which one is it?
Right.
Which I think, and I love debates. I think the debates are a great idea because it puts them on the spot. You get to see how quick they can react and think to something
Sure.
and respond to something instantaneously. So no, but man, to tell you, which one of my most, which one's the hot button on my list, that's hard to say because there's so many of them. And we are so blessed to have you that you come and you make all these points very valid. You'll say, hey, why doesn't he support this? Or why doesn't she support this? Or why isn't she doing this or he doing this? That's what we love about this show because you bring up the hard questions and you make them answer them. Hey, why aren't you doing this? How come you're not saying this?
Well, and we try. And again, I mean, I want to be, I don't want to put words in their mouths or try and do I mean, any of my guests, I don't want to do a catch-22 sort of thing. I mean, when they're on, it is they get their platform out and, whether I agree or disagree, that I give them the opportunity to say that. And then we kind of discuss it later on because, I mean, obviously, you guys, the listeners, when you listen every day and what's right and what's wrong and what red flags pop up and you're like, wait a second, they said something I don't like here. And we're able to discuss that. And that's what we try and do, at least get the information out. So that way you have the choice. I mean, we're going to be trying to get to all 3 or 4 judges that are going to be on the ballot that are going to be competing against each other. So that way when you walk into the voting booth who to vote for judge, Secretary of State candidates, gubernatorial candidates, House races, all of these, as long as the information's there, then you can actually listen to it. You can listen to them. You can base your decision based on either their platform or the character of the individual or their stance or whatever it may be. And then you have a solid confidence walking into the voting booth and knowing exactly who you're going to vote for and why.
One more thing I want to bring up real quick before I jump off
Sure.
here. Supreme Court judges.
Yes.
We need to concentrate on those and get those off the board or off the circuit and put some true conservatives in there that are not going to hold us hostage every time the schools decide that they want to hold us hostage. I think that's a huge issue.
It is a huge issue. That's one of the biggest ones. Now they're not going to be on the ballot this time, but they will be in the next cycle because they will be term limited out to some degree. The problem is that we have very little say on that unless you've actually passed the bar exam in the state of Kansas. And then if you pass the bar and you're an actual lawyer, then that's the only people that actually get to vote to nominate a Supreme Court justice. So not only do we need to elect conservative legislators and a governor that actually are going to stop the Supreme Court from abusing their power, but we need to elect enough people to say, you know what, it's time for us to change the process of how we nominate Supreme Court justices because I don't like having a select group choose them for us and us not have a say in this in any way, shape, or form.
It's a good old boy program then.
It is, very much so.
You're screwed every time because unless you get the right set of good old boys in there, you're screwed.
I mean, here's how the process works in the state of Kansas. Usually, and I like the process that we have, say, at the federal level, where we elect the president of the United States. The president chooses their nominee, and then the elected officials that represent us in the Senate get to do the hearings and actually vote. So the representatives that actually represent us are the ones that are choosing the nominee. So in kind of a third-party way, we're still getting represented based on our Supreme Court justices. That's not how it's done here in Kansas. The bar, people that have passed the bar exam and the bar test and are actual lawyers in the state vote on 3 different candidates, and the top 3 are the nominees on who potentially could be a Supreme Court justice for the state, and then the governor chooses one of those. So kind of sort of do we have a say based on the 3 options that are given to us, but it's about the 3 choices that are actually presented to us to the governor to where we have no say in it. So we kind of are choosing from crappy option A, B, and C because we have no choice in that process. And that's kind of how it's kind of how it's done.
I know, but it's just funny. You said it's the crappy option A, B, or C. So, you just might as well just hit the flush button and just start over. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right, brother. I just wanted to touch base with you. That's kind of you're asking for one hot topic.
You just can't choose one.
Because of you, that's it. Because of you and being the smart voters that we are, you're constantly letting us know, hey, here's what's going on. What do you think about this? And you're constantly educating us, the public, about what is going on. So you've made us more aware of, instead of having one issue that we think about multiple issues.
Well,
so
that
God
is
bless
true.
you, brother.
Well, we appreciate it.
You have a great day, brother.
You as well, Joe. Appreciate it very much. Always a pleasure there. Have a great weekend. 316-721-8255. And I hope that there are multiple issues like that. Everybody's got kind of their niche issue that they want, but hopefully you're right. I mean, hopefully we have, and we've talked about enough and brought up enough issues to where you say, hey, there's a lot of them to discuss, and we got to think about all of them to be able to choose that right candidate. Let's go back to the phones, line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, sir. It's Drew.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing great. While I agree with Joe that there are multiple issues, and yes, right now, politics especially is tribal, where everybody has their issue. I think that you have identified the issue that is the thread that pulls apart the tapestry of pain, and that is that we need to go and make sure that we are sending true constitutional conservatives to go do the work of the people.
Sure.
Nowhere in the federal Constitution do you ever see the word democracy. It just doesn't exist there. And so the party, the Republican Party, has built its ranks with too many rhinos, and we need to have constitutional conservatives in there too. And here's where I'm going to pull the thread to show where this is impacting so many things. Because we need them to, number one, hold us to constitutional law, and number two, to make sure that we are doing the things that we should as a constitutional government.
Sure.
If we don't stand up to the courts, if we don't say we can have you removed, if we don't say we are going to rework the system, then they're going to continue to impose on us bad rulings that we've seen. We're going to try and impose on us powers that they don't have, such as the economic powers. And so why do I say we need to look at that? Because if we'll remember just this last election, when we did try and stand up to the number of groups that came in from the outside and supported those tyrants in black robes, they brought in outside money.
Sure.
That turned that vote to the slimmest margin where we're still stuck with them. That's one of the things we got to look forward to. And by the way, since we're talking about outside groups and groups that are going to support the tyrants in black robes, does anyone actually think that these many protests that we've seen around the nation where they shut down the schools in the state, that they're just organic? No, they're organized. That's the NRA. Do you think that the teachers are going to stand by quietly because they're going to get their marching orders sent out to them? The local NRAs and everyone else are going to stand by quietly? No, they're going to try and support those crappy courts and those crappy judges, and those are the ones who are going to make the economic situation that we have because of the increased taxes, because of the increased fees. And those same, faux Republicans are going to be the ones who are going to keep raising taxes. And we know from Keynesian economics that the more you tax and more you borrow is the more you're building up inflation, which, by the way, in spite of Mr. Trump's tax cuts, federal inflation is now pretty much eaten up a lot of that we've seen.
Sure.
It goes down. You keep pulling that thread of what happens when you step away from a constitutional republic.
Well,
and you start seeing the whole thing unravel.
Well, and you're right. I mean, that's what we have to get back to, and that's kind of the hopefully that is the driving force, as you mentioned. I mean, kind of the trickle down of all the issues kind of bundled up into one nice little bow and package is individuals that are going to fight for the constitutionality of all of these issues, stopping the Supreme Court being able to keep the separation between the three branches of government, keeping regulation and taxes low so that way the private sector can actually grow, growing the government in a healthy way as opposed to through streamlining and trying to take everything from the private sector and the GDP. Drew, I appreciate it very much. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, hopefully that is the driving force for many of us to say, you know what, that is the important issue, because then everything else kind of falls into line when you have the right people in there that represent you in a republic in the proper actual way. You got some more calls on the line. Stay here. We'll get to you as soon as we come back. We got a lot of issues to talk about today on a Free for All Friday. It's going to be fun right here on The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
We got lots more coming up here on The Voice of Reason today on a Free-for-All Friday. It still is open line, see whatever you want to talk about. We have Brian Davis from Davis Liquor Outlet coming up at 8:30 to wrap up the program with us, along with another check-in from the Inman Harvest Cafe at the end of the show at 8:45. But at the top of the hour, it is open line to you for the next half hour, 316-721-8255. Let's get the phone lines lit up. Let's get the issues out that you want to talk about because, hey, we just like to have a lot of fun, don't we? This is your show. As always, it's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 3 of The Voice of Reason coming up in just a minute. Stay right here.
It's time for Reason.
No, we changed it. We're the ones with the power of the purse. We'll decide what inflation's going to look like when it comes to educational funding or what that dollar amount is actually going to be. Thanks for the input. I'm glad you like the formula. This is what we're going to stick with. People are tired of it, and if they continue to rail on it, they're going to begin losing support of it from the general public because it's gone on for 20 years. So now they're changing the argument.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, hour number 3 of The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 at the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. It's great to have you along. Great to be with you today on a Friday. It is time for our Free-for-All Friday. Come on. As usual, today's the day where you set the tone, you have the dialogue, you have the discussion. I'm just along for the ride on a Free-for-All Friday here on The Voice of Reason. Come on, let's make it happen. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, you can do so if you'd like to. Shoot me a message on Facebook, facebook.com/1480KQAM. Also simulcasting on Twitter. I think we're on Twitter. Well, we are on Twitter at least. You can shoot me a message there at Hoosier Reason if you'd like to do that. You know what I'm realizing? Times are changing. And as conservatives, we don't necessarily like the times to change. We kind of, if it's working, why fix it? If it's not broken, why mess with it? And when we have an economy that's doing well, when we have genders that are actually known, that make things, normal, when you have things that are working, then you just kind of roll with it. And conservatives, we have a tough time with change, and I get that. And I understand that times are changing, and you just kind of have to adapt with it. As a business owner, you know that as times change, you kind of have to go with the flow and adapt with those. And it's a very difficult thing, whether it's with trade, whether it's the price of goods, whether it's salaries for employees and individuals, whether it's for the expenditures that individuals can actually have to be able to purchase your product. No matter what it is, the times are always changing. The economy goes up, the economy goes down, trade goes up, trades go down, that sort of thing. Times are always changing. I mean, when did you ever think that we would have people concerned or questioning what gender they actually are? You never thought we'd get to that position. You ever think that we'd have parents that chose not to be the parent to their children, but more of trying to be their best friend? Times are changing. And it's very difficult for us as conservatives many times to accept that change. People actually believe that socialism is a way to govern a society. And I don't understand that one either, because they've tried it time and time and time again. And just because you put a democracy on the front of it as a democratic socialism, then all of a sudden it should be okay, right? And it should be good. But times are changing. In the city, we've had the budget proposed to where we're potentially going to be shutting down 2 libraries and a golf course. Now, the golf course, okay, whatever. We have a lot of golf courses. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. I know we're spending a lot of money on the maintenance of city golf courses around the area, so maybe that's fine. But there's been an uprise of individuals upset about the shutting down of 2 libraries, public libraries, especially in rural or in lower income communities. And I don't like it But at the same time, I almost understand it. I want to see the libraries. Look, I'm one that's kind of the traditional way. I like to go to the library. I like to check out books. I like to do the research. You know, in college, you always go to the library and you're doing all your homework and doing your research in that sense. The kids and the little ones, they go there and they see all the fun reading classes and they have the reading sessions and they get to check out the fun books and you get to check out the DVDs and check out the music and you get to have fun that way. And it's kind of the way of life. It's kind of the way it is. But now at the same time, with the interweb, many people don't go to the library. Many people just read the books from the ebooks online. Many of them just watch their videos. They don't have to check them out at the library, but they go online and watch them on YouTube or on Netflix and that sort of thing. And the big question is, shutting down libraries in the community, is it a good thing? Is it worth it or is it not worth it? As times change. I'm with you. I don't like times to change. I don't like changing a whole lot. I like the traditional brick and mortar library. But how many people use the library compared to just going online and doing the research nowadays? I don't know. Then you see the story about the Wichita School District fencing off many of the playgrounds in the area. For why? Don't know. Many people aren't happy about that as well. How many of you remember as a kid or maybe as the parent with the kids to where you'd be walking in the park and walking around and you'd stop at the school to play on the playground for a little bit before you go home? Or that was the playground in the community for you to go and actually have some fun with, to go and enjoy the playground before you come home. Times are changing. How many people remember being able to go home and go to bed at night and your car doors were still unlocked and your front door was unlocked because you had nothing to worry about? Times are changing. Nowadays, you have to have the security on your vehicle. You have to lock it. You lock the doors on your home, and you have the gun sitting next to it, next to your home and next to your bed or wherever it may be, just in case someone tries to break in. Because now we're more concerned about the safety there, and we're concerned about more people causing havoc and causing issues. In that sense, the times are changing. It's concerning. It's sad. Because things were simpler back in the day. When you wanted to go get educated, you would go across the street or go down the road to the library, and you would sit there and you would read all day, and you would have a good time. And that was the party place, was going to the library and having a fun time. Instead of just going on the interweb. Being locked down with smartphones, being locked down with the computer right in your face all the time. You wouldn't have to worry. You'd have random people coming up and just knocking on your door and pulling up and walking in and saying, "Hey, I'm here. What's going on?" And you stop what you're doing and you have a barbecue and have a good time. And that still happens to some degree, but not nearly as frequently. Where you could use the school playground and not have to worry about the fences being built around it because of concern about vandalism. Or about drug deals going down, or whatever happens at the school playgrounds nowadays, apparently, that we need to be concerned about, to where we're spending money on that from the school district. Is that the appropriate use of money, by the way? As we talk about educational finance, is that the appropriate kind of money that we should be spending it on? Oh, hey, let's build a big old fence right around our playground so no one can use it except for the elite kids that actually are able to go to the school. Is that where we're at in society today? Boy, the times are changing. And I don't know if it's for the better. Now, you could be the person who just complains about all the change that's going on in the world, and, the world's turned to crap. And some of it has, some of it hasn't. I think the technology has been a benefit to us in some degree as well, don't you? But at the same time, it changes, and sometimes we just don't know how to let go. I'm still conflicted on how to feel about these libraries being shut down. I don't like it because I like the fact that we go to libraries. I have the one near Edgemoor that I go to all the time, and my child loves to go to all the time, and they have the reading classes there, and they get to check out the fun kids' books, and we get to have fun, and there's something about it. There's something special. There's something great about the fact that you can walk into a public library and you have your card and you can check out books and you can read them and you can return them and get something fresh and new every single time. And there's something exciting about that. At the same time, more people are just going to the way of you can do that same thing online and you don't have to worry about even leaving your home. And it's cheaper that way, and it's easier that way and more convenient that way. And the city's looking to cut budgets, and the city's looking to cut different spending habits, and one of those may be to say, you know what? Libraries, we just don't need you as much anymore. Maybe make a bigger centralized one to where it's a little bit bigger and a little more convenient, but people just have to travel a little bit farther to it in order to obtain that. Is it just the changing of times, or is it just bad budgeting on the city level? I don't know. I can't answer that. I think there's a lot of different opinions on this, and I'd love to hear from you. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Are the times changing to where we just have to accept it, or can we preserve what's the right way to do things sometimes? Because if it's not broken, don't fix it mentality. And if it's not broken, as in having opportunities for lower income areas to have public libraries, and we want to preserve them, we want to keep them, maybe that's the way that we have to continue to fight and go, and we need to take a second look, and a third and a fourth and a fifth, obviously, that's going to happen when it comes to the city budget for the city of Wichita. Plus, these nice little fences being built around our playgrounds, I don't know if that shows the fact that we're more concerned about security and we need to spend money, or if it's the fact that we just are really sad in the fact that we have a society that has to do things at a playground that are not appropriate for children just to go and play at the playground. There's a lot of issues here that I'd love to get your thoughts on. 316-721-8255, 17 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Well, we got a lot of discussions that happen when it comes to the city, county, statewide, national levels, especially with the city budget. And I'm really excited, by the way, on Tuesday next week to talk about this with Brian Fry, a city council member, as we always like to do, because I'm really glad, and I got to give credit to the city, that we are looking at our budget and what we're spending money on. What we're spending on good things, on bad things, whether we invest and expand in certain areas, we shorten and downsize in other areas. And again, look, I mean, personally, I love libraries. I love going into them. There's that great feel to them. If no one uses it, if everybody's online, if everybody's doing the online thing, the e-books and whatever else that you do, and no one's going to the library, how much should the city continue to invest for a nostalgic thing that no one's using in the first place? And that's the question we really have to look at. And I know that a lot of people don't want to address it that way, but that's really the reality of it. If you don't use it, then why are we spending money on it? For example, let's say that you have your personal budget and you're trying to, figure out your budget, and you have numerous different cars, and you have maybe some car loans, and you have a different debts, and you have a debt of a car that just sits there because maybe you just got a new one. Maybe you're working on another one. Maybe you're consolidated and you're driving together to save on gas. Why spend the money on a car payment if the car is just sitting there and not even being used? You got to consolidate, save your money a little bit. That's what the city, I think, is at least trying to do. Hey, you know what? There's libraries here. No one's going to them. Yeah, but they're in the lower income area, so you're racist if you want to cut that. What? Is anybody going to it? Well, no, people are doing stuff online. Okay. How many golf courses do you have? I don't know. We got a lot of golf courses. Let's go ahead and consolidate a little bit and cut one if we are not using it. Okay. Swimming pools. I know we've been talking about the swimming pool issue for the city for a long time, and it's been an ongoing issue, and a lot of people are really upset at the fact that we've been cutting swimming pools. We're not going to invest in reopening swimming pools or making swimming pools bigger or whatever the case is. If they're not being used, why invest in it? Again, times are changing. The changing of the times, good, bad, or indifferent, it's changing. We have to be able to adapt and stay on top of it, or else we're going to be throwing money at things as a city or as a county or as even a state government, throwing money at things that aren't being used, that aren't being done efficiently. And it's time for us to relook at some of this and say, you know what? It's time to do something different and new. And that's what we're doing. So I give the city massive credit for looking at this. Is it a hard discussion to have? Absolutely. Because there's always going to be people that do not like things being cut like this, that do not like things being shut down like this. But at the same time, how much of it is being used and how efficient is it being done? So that's the discussion looking forward to continue to have on throughout the next few weeks and the next couple of months, really, as they talk about their budget. We'll talk about this with Brian Fry, city council member, coming up next week as well, and we'll have some fun with it on that front as well. And by the way, all change is not bad. I know that as conservatives, we don't like a whole lot of change, but change isn't bad all the time. If you look and see what's happening right now, the change that we're seeing at the national level, we have Donald Trump that is reversing Barack Obama policy. That change is good. That's good. When Donald Trump Jr. was in town just a few days ago, and we got to go and see that at the rally, he was talking about for every one new regulation, we're cutting 22 regulations at the federal level. President Trump slashing regulation at the federal level. You're not hearing about that in the media. You're not hearing about that by the news. You're not hearing about those things. It's kind of big news. It's kind of important, isn't it? We're talking about trying to build the wall. We're talking about trying to get the budget at least a little bit under control at the federal level. We're talking about an appropriations process again. 11, 12 different appropriations bills to fund the federal government. Better than just the big omnibus bill to say, you know what? There's all the money. We'll throw it all into one big thing. And if you don't like it, then you're a terrible, horrible human being that either hates the military or hates poor people, depending on what side of the aisle that you're actually on. Isn't that crazy to think about? You don't like the military. You don't like veterans. What? Oh, okay. You don't like poor people. Okay. We can get back to the appropriations process. Just think if we could get rid of the EPA. Think if we could get rid of the Department of Energy. Think if we could get rid of some of these Department of Education, Common Core education. Think about it. Betsy DeVos slashing the Department of Education. They are losing their minds on the left side of the aisle. This is change that we could see. You're going back to the 1950s. Well, you know what? Back in the 1950s, we had a great economy and we were booming because people were working, because we were investing in our own thing. It may be going back to some traditional styles of the economy or of a society, but guess what? It worked. If it wasn't broken, don't fix it. Barack Obama messed up a lot of things, and now we're looking at going towards socialism. That's a bad change. I think we need to have a game, good change versus bad change. And Obama can keep his change. Because as we talk about what's benefiting, what's working, and what's not working, we see numerous other nations trying to go to that other way, and it's just not working for them. They're struggling. They have the open borders. They're in debt, and they're filing bankruptcy on themselves. They're defaulting on their bills. They're not knowing how to survive. We're just printing enough money. We're going to go down that same road. We're going to do the same thing. Luckily for us, we have our own currency and nothing like the European Union, right? I mean, the European Union, where you just have the euro and everybody uses the same thing, and then you can't print off your own money as a nation because you just have to be tied in with everybody else. We have our own currency, and that could work for us and against us. I mean, we have our own things. We could set our own tone, but at the same time, we're just printing off money without any kind of backing, lowering the value of the dollar, and then making it more expensive to pay for things called inflation. Inflation, inflating the economy, injecting it, growing the big bubble. That's not good change. And it's time for that to change. And we have an opportunity to do so. We can do that. As conservatives, as we go into an election cycle, as we talk about different candidates, as we talk about the important issues in our state, which again, politics is going to be driven back down to the local level. It's happening already. How much do you think that you have an influence at the federal level versus if you call up a legislator or call up the governor or call up an agency here in Kansas and actually work with them? You have a lot more of an impact at the local level, do you not? Politics is going to go back down to that. And with the driving forces that we have, which are major, major issues here in Kansas, we're going to have a huge driving force to actually do something successful, and we can maintain, and we can grow, and we can do well without going backwards and regressing a little bit here in the state of Kansas. And I am excited about that fact. So more candidates, by the way, are coming up here in the next couple of days as we talk to them going into the election time and have some fun in that sense. But change is not always a bad thing. It's depending on the kind of change, and we need to be on the up and up. We need to be the business mindset to learn about what the change is and be ahead of the game on what we're spending effectively on, what we're not spending effectively on, and that could be at the city level all the way up to the state and the federal level. Bottom of the hour news coming up. We got more coming up, plus your phone calls on a free-for-all Friday. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Are you a Hoosier-holic?
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Call in now at 721-8255. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome into it, doing the thing, rocking and rolling, advancing conservatism on a daily basis. That's what it's all about. That's what we love as we get into election season. You can feel it. You can feel the excitement. You can feel the environment as we've kind of changed a little bit from the mundane. It's summertime. We're going through the grind, wishing you were outside grilling and barbecuing, wishing you were outside enjoying some of the sporting events while you're stuck at a job every day, to saying, hey, all right, politicking, doing the politicking. And that's what we're all about. 316-721-8255. It is great to have you along today on a free-for-all Friday. Whatever you want to chat about, you're more than welcome to do so. By the way, real quick, change. As we talk about change, the whole hope and change thing that Barack Obama did, kind of a fun marketing ploy, wasn't really very successful, obviously, but the fun marketing ploy of the hope and change that Barack Obama brought was the nice hope and change that we get to reverse today. Just saying. And then, of course, a big change as we talk about having Vladimir Putin coming to the White House because he's Dracula. That'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes, especially with the left-wingers who actually hate the fact that Donald Trump can actually get along with another world leader. Let's go to the phones, get your phone calls today on a free-for-all Friday. 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
Hey, it's Deacon.
What's going on, man?
Hey, I got a question for you, just real quick. I was catching up on my Armed American Radio podcast this morning.
There you go.
You to come on.
Good times.
And I got to know, have you gutted any tigers with a pocket knife lately?
Well, you know what? I'm waiting for the proper moment. I'm waiting for the right time, and then I will gladly gut the tiger in self-defense. Yes.
Absolutely. But back to the politics. Yes, we need conservatives. We need strong conservatives. That's why I'm voting for Chris Kobach. He wasn't afraid to take on the federal government as the the state's attorney when it came to the Secretary of State. That's it. Where he was taking on the federal government about our election laws and having to have a proof of citizenship to vote in our elections. If he'll take them on, and I mean take on the whole country for the sake of Kansas, then I'm absolutely waiting to see what he can do as governor.
That's a really interesting point. You're right. I mean, he has not been afraid to not only fight for the state of Kansas with the voter ID laws and proof of citizenship, but then take on the ACLU, which has come after him time and time and time again, and then trying to work with Vice President Mike Pence and President Donald Trump with the Election Integrity Commission that was in commission for maybe about 6 months, and they didn't get anything done, and they ended up having to shut down. But at least they tried it, and he's willing to not worry about what may come of it, what kind of attacks he may get, what type of lawsuits may start. He's just willing to give it a shot and try and fight for whatever he believes in. So I respect that very much so.
Seems to me like he doesn't care about being PC. He cares about getting the job done for the citizens of Kansas. And I'm really just looking forward. I've never been so involved in politics in my life until this recent cycle, because
What started that?
The more I listen to you, the more I get involved.
What started that? Was it my show, or was it the Trump election? Was it just the stage of politics? What got you more involved recently?
Well, I started paying attention a little bit when Obama was running for president, and I was like, okay, I'll pay attention a little bit. And then the more I started paying attention, the more I was looking for a place to get informed, and I found your show, and the more you talk about, the more I get informed, and the more I check and see, I double check you a lot, man, just because I don't take anybody's word for anything.
Sure,
I just
absolutely,
can't.
and I'm glad you do.
And I haven't found you wrong on anything. We disagreed on some things,
sure,
but I haven't found you misleading or wrong on anything. So I appreciate you getting the information out there, especially for Kansas politics. What goes on in the state of Kansas. Now I know you're out of Wichita, so you can talk about some things that really don't affect me, but I like listening because I like being informed even on stuff that really doesn't affect me personally, because I go into Wichita a lot. I spend my money there.
Sure.
I leave my money and then I come home, so my money stays in place. So I like to know what's going on there. And just your excitement feeds my excitement, and my wife has actually started listening to you when she gets up in the morning and gets ready for work.
I love it. I love it. Waking up the entire family the right way by getting you pissed off about politics. That's the way to have a family unity right there, right?
That's right, man. Just she was always I really don't get into politics, and I'm like, the more I get into it, the more I'm like, you have got to pay attention.
Sure.
Because if you don't take an interest in politics, politics is going to take an interest in you because it's your money, it's your freedom, it's your voice, it's everything. Every aspect of your life can be taken back to politics, even my religion, because my religion is being attacked. I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
We're being attacked by politics.
Sure. No, you're right.
So,
and it's good, and I'm so glad to hear, and I really appreciate your words and the fact that I can help you not only get informed, but get excited about this, because that's my job. I want to inform and give you the information so you can verify it, but you kind of have, a ground of understanding of what's going on with some of the issues. And we talk about some of the city issues, but at the same time, 90% of the show, I like to talk about the statewide problems that affect everybody in the state. And, to get fired up about it, to get enthralled by it, and then get sucked in, you start to realize how important it is, and not only how much of a voice that you potentially could have, but everything that's going on that does affect you on a daily basis, where you're allowed to carry a firearm to protect yourself, what your property taxes are going to look like, what the sales tax or income tax is going to look like, how you can actually get a good job to provide for your family the best way without the government taking advantage of it every day. I mean, that stuff, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, and I always joke about, and take little shots at the sports guys over on the sports station because, it's the nice little coliseum by the distraction of, oh, hey, you know what? Don't care about what's going on. Just worry about your nice little sporting event and your entertainment value. And I kind of poke fun at it, but it's so true. The fact that people sometimes just don't want to know because it frustrates them or they don't understand it. But if they started to get involved and hear it, then they understand how important this is. And hopefully I break it down enough to where even those that may just be entering into the political world can say, oh, okay, that makes total sense now and I get it. Now I need to do something about it.
Exactly. The sports analogy, I'm right there with you. I used to take time and I'd sit down and I'd watch sports with my son, and I'm explaining to him, the rules of football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people they don't get into politics because they don't understand the rules. Well, now I'm explaining the rules of politics to my son, because the more you understand, the more you're going to get involved, and the more you're going to realize, hey, two guys fighting over a ball it's entertaining, but it's not important.
Exactly. And that's really what it is. No, you're absolutely right. And once you do understand it, and as hard as it is, once you realize the desperation in politics, sometimes even when you get frustrated, I mean, I've been doing radio for a few years now, been involved in politics for a really long time, and sometimes you feel like it's a losing cause and you just want to walk away from it. But when you feel that for a hint of a second, then you start thinking, you know what, if I walk away from it now, who's going to step in and fight that fight? And is it actually going to be fought for, or is it going to be done for good? And you almost feel that responsibility of what you need to continue to fight for now, don't you?
Absolutely. It's kind of like, being a Browns fan sometimes.
Sometimes you just want to walk away, but sometimes you just can't do it.
That's it. Hey, thanks a lot for everything. You have a great weekend, bud.
I love it, Deacon. I appreciate it very much. Have a great weekend. No, I appreciate that. And that's the goal of this show, which is why it's called The Voice of Reason, because it's not about me. It's about you. It's not the Andy Hoosier show, and it's about Andy Hoosier. It's about me providing the information to try and get you informed and then be the catalyst for you to get pumped up and excited and energized about it. I come in, look, I've told you before this, but I'm not a morning person. 4 a.m. is not very pleasant to me in any way, shape, or form. But to wake up and be able to discuss this stuff and talk about it and have a conversation, that gets me pumped up and excited to know that you're pumped up and excited, which is why I enjoy this so much. I do. I truly, honestly love this, to provide the information and to do it in an entertaining way to where you feel enthralled to be a part of the show and want to be involved in it, and then to have some fun with it and to get you excited to where we see that we can put on a rally within 4 days and have 120 plus people show up and have some fun with it because you're that passionate about wanting to make a change and want to make your voice heard. That to me is so heartwarming, and I absolutely love that and appreciate that very much so. Let's take a phone call here. Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
Andy, this is Jim.
Yeah, how we doing? Good morning.
Doing good. Hey, got a question for you.
Sure.
I'm seeing a lot of pretty slick political commercials for Governor Colyer. I'm wondering who is one of his, I suspect one of his biggest donors is the teachers union. Can you corroborate that, or do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know offhand. Now, I will do some investigation because I do want to. I mean, that's a really good good way to look at who's sponsoring and endorsing certain candidates, and it is public record. So I will do a little bit of investigation, and sometime next week, I will run down the list of sponsors and donors and super PACs and everything that's sponsoring each one of the political candidates for the governor's race, and who's actually funding them. Now, I don't know about the teachers union. I do know that there was one attack ad, of course, that came out, and I'm sure you've heard of it from some of the ads of Governor Colyer, not necessarily being endorsed by, but the ACLU that did spend some money on a pro-Colyer ad going after Chris Kobach. And obviously, since the ACLU hates Chris Kobach so much, they spent some money for Jeff Colyer to go after Chris Kobach. So I know that that's some of the money that's came in on that side. As of endorsements of super PACs and certain special interest groups like that, I don't know yet, but it is public record, so it is good for us to know, and I will relay some of that information throughout the next week.
Andy, can't tell you how important you are to us out here that are listening. Thank you so much.
Well, hey, thank you for listening, and thank you so much for the phone call. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because that has been something I've wanted to do. And as they kind of trickle in, sometimes you miss some sort of thing. But now that we're a week away from the election, then I do definitely want to do that. So we will read down a list of all the gubernatorial candidates and some of the special interests that have been supporting them, some of the money that's been coming in, who it's coming from, so that way you kind of have an idea of who's sponsoring and helping out these candidates as well. That's a really great point. Appreciate that very much so. Let's take another phone call, line at number 3 real quick. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Lois.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Hey, just to dovetail on the comment about getting involved in politics, especially in the primaries, people really need to know what the candidates stand for.
Yes.
Especially in particular down in House District 93. I was at the Sedgwick County Fair yesterday, and there was a lot of scary comments coming out of the opponent on District 93. I mean, stuff like he didn't think the federal government was too big, and the tax cuts have caused the $21 trillion in deficit.
Yes. And for District number 93, for people that know about that, that is State Representative John Whitmer's district with J.C. Moore as the primary challenger on there. And other than, we don't know much about J.C. I mean, he hasn't done a whole lot from what I know of on the campaign side. Does have a booth there at the Sedgwick County Fair. And I had heard that some of the comments that were made, I mean, the platform that I've heard at least, and we'll reach out and see if we can't get him on the show to talk about it a little more in depth from his perspective. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but from what I've heard, has been an advocation of a 10-cent gas tax in order to fight climate change. As you mentioned, the fact that the government at the federal level not necessarily corrupt or in a bad standing, and yes, tax cuts, not spending habits, were the problem for federal deficits. So that is something to be relatively concerned about, I think, as a conservative.
And plus, they were very friendly with the Democratic booth. Kept going back and forth.
Very interesting. That is good to know. I appreciate that comment very much. So thank you so much, and have a great weekend. And enjoy the fair. That's a great time out there. Absolutely love it. Got to take a break, wrapping up the show today. Lots more to get to. We'll also check in with the Inman Harvest Cafe on a Fried Chicken Friday. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up the program today on a Friday. It is kind of nice to have a Friday, isn't it? The weekend right around the corner. I am still it's shocked the fact that we're this far into the year and that we have just about a week and a half until election time, which is why it's so important it's cram time, baby. If you miss any of the shows, miss any of the interviews, you can always go back to the podcast. I'm going to try, depending on how much time we have, what I may do is over the last few weeks, the different candidates and like maybe all the Secretary of State candidates, all the gubernatorial candidates, all the House candidates that we have on district by district, and kind of do a montage and play those within the last day or two leading up to the election, so that way we have that information. So more information coming out on that soon. We may do something in that sense to help you be able to hear all their stances again and platforms to go into Election Day. This portion of The Voice Reason, as always, brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe, because it is not just a free-for-all Friday, but it is a fried chicken Friday. I'm very hungry because I've still been very confused myself, and I'm trying to really figure out some emotional things with myself, and ways to solve emotional problems is usually fried chicken, and that usually helps me. So Katie's back online with us with the Inman Harvest Cafe. Katie, happy Fried Chicken Friday.
Happy Fried Chicken Friday. Fried chicken solves all your problems.
It kind of does. It just kind of does.
Yeah.
I mean, who are you voting for the governor's? I don't know. Eat some fried chicken and we'll figure it out. I mean,
yeah. If everybody could just come together over a giant plate of fried chicken and you could kind of just eat your way to that would be great.
You know, I can kind of go along with that. I like that. Mm-hmm. So today is Fried Chicken Friday, which means it is one of your funnest days of the entire week.
Yeah.
Now, every day's fun, but today is a wild, fun, crazy one. You guys are already there for breakfast. You have the lunch buffet from 11 to 1, the big one from 5 to 8 o'clock tonight. You also get that free slice of pie in the evening, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But remind us again of the goodies that you have other than fried chicken, other than the roasted beast that you have every week. But something kind of new and unique this morning that I kind of want to try.
We're going to have a pizza casserole. So it's got the noodles, it's got a homemade pizza sauce, it's got pepperoni, it's got cheese. It's just delicious. So we're mixing that all up together. Nick's kind of in charge of that one, so it's going to be great. Then we're going to have meatloaf. We're going to have, that's our traditional meatloaf that's very, very popular all the time. We make it homemade from scratch like everything else. And then we're going to have a chicken and broccoli casserole. And that's chicken, broccoli, saucy stuff, and then cheddar cheese. So very, very delicious food. I
love it. It's always good stuff there, and that's going to be able to fill you up all day long. And you don't just have to show up to one buffet or another. You can do multiple, for the lunch and the dinner, and then you really have to get probably 2 wheelbarrows to get you out of the building afterwards, because it's just that good. But along with that, you have your free slice of pie from 5 to 8 o'clock. Grab your free slice. Make sure to get there and get it to your table before you sit down or even start with the buffet stuff. And remind us, what type of pies do you have today?
So today we've got our coconut cream, chocolate cream, sour cream raisin, cookies and cream. We got lots of creamy stuff going on today. Then we got cherry, peach, rhubarb custard, and banana. And then this afternoon we're going to be making several different ones, but I'm not entirely sure which ones those are going to be. So you're going to come and you're going to get an awesome meal with great pie. And it's just a great time.
It's a great time all around. Plus, of course, we have to mention the homemade ice cream as well. You can get a big old scoop of that on top of your pie, right?
You could. Yeah. And the great thing about the ice cream is that it's ingredients. It's just milk, cream, eggs, sugar, vanilla, the end.
See, no processed stuff like that. That's right.
Nope. There's nothing you can't pronounce.
One of these days that you should have a game to where for every few minutes you pass around like the hand crank for the ice cream, and let each one of the customers do the hand crank every little bit.
I don't know if I could get them to do that, but that might be.
It would be a
free
fun
labor.
game. Well, see, it could be a free labor thing, and then it could be like one of those musical chairs. So whenever the music stops, whoever's cranking it at that time gets a free gift or something.
Hey,
there you go.
That sounds like a fun First Friday event. We should try that.
See, there you go. It's a Friday. Ask the radio guy for fun promotions. There you go. That's a good time. It's the Inman Harvest Cafe, 112 South Main Street, downtown Inman, just north of Hutch. Give them a call, 620-585-6925, or visit them online at inmanharvestcafe.com. Katie, you guys enjoy. It's going to be a heck of a fun Friday. Wheelbarrow sold separately outside in order to get you to your vehicle afterwards. But you guys have fun today. We'll check in with you again next Friday.
All right, that sounds good. We'll talk to you then.
Always a good time there, brought to you by the Inman Harvest Cafe. We appreciate those guys very much so, and appreciate them jumping on with us each and every Friday. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but we kind of like our food on the show. We have the Inman Harvest Cafe. We have Riverside Cafe, where we give away the free burger and fries on Thursdays. we enjoy our food just a little bit. Just a little bit. Got to make you a healthy, growing boy and gal, which, by the way, are the ones that are not confused about their gender. Wrapping up the program today, we appreciate all the phone calls, all the conversations, and I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate all the kind words that you say about the show and the fact that this helps you get energized, gets engaged, gets involved in politics to make a change. We can do it. Our voice is way louder than the progressives. It will always be louder than the progressives as long as we stay engaged, we stay active, we stay motivated, we stay passionate. And that's what my job is here to help you do. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening and chiming into the conversations and all the wonderful, kind words. Wrapping up today, as always, we always love to say it. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is the Voice of Reason on KQAM. Everybody enjoy the weekend. We'll be back on Monday to kick off 1 week away from Election Day. Have a great weekend, everybody.